All right, so I've got my solution of dilute acid here. I've got it split, so 25 milliliters in the graduated cylinder, 25 milliliters here. I've added my phenolphthalein indicator, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and neutralize this with some dilute sodium hydroxide. And you'll start to see that pink color show up, and of course if I swirl that, initially it's going to disappear, and I'm going to keep going until that pink color is permanent. I'm going to use the automatic stir bar here. And what you should see is that as we get closer and closer to the equivalence point, that pink cloud, that burst of pink color, will get more and more apparent. It'll last a little bit longer every time until we get to a permanent spot where we get that nice light pink color. So remember, the goal of getting that nice light pink color is to be at the equivalence point, not beyond it. Okay, might be a little bit darker than we hoped for. It's going to fade a little bit. So remember, we've just added a strong base to a weak acid. That creates a conjugate base. And so when we go to measure the pH at the equivalence point, what we should see is that we get something a little bit higher than 7, because inside this solution, right, there's conjugate base that is causing a slight increase in pH. All right, I think that's about it. Okay, you can still barely see that pink color. That's the kind of color we're looking for. So we'll go ahead. The initial pH of this solution, when I measured it, was 3.5. Okay, so 3.5. We'll go ahead and measure it now at the equivalence point. And again, what we should see is a pH a little bit higher than 7. Let's see, now the pink color's gone. Let's see if we can't get that equivalence point back. No, see, now I'm going way over. And of course, that's the risk, right? All right, so unfortunately this last data point is probably going to throw off our numbers because I've overshot the endpoint. Okay, but we'll go ahead and record it, right? That's part of science. Sometimes we make mistakes, and we make notes of that when we go and write our reports. So 9.14 there, and it's worth noting I probably went past our endpoint. So that's probably going to have an effect here on our overall result for this particular trial. Now I know this is the only trial that I've done on camera, which is unfortunate, but the other 3 trials actually looked really good. So although we do have one trial where we're going to be a little bit off, the rest of them should be fine. So let's go ahead and add in our 25 milliliters of unreacted acid. Okay, and we'll measure that pH. So this now is going to be a buffer, right? It's got the conjugate acid, conjugate base in equal concentration with the weak acid. And so that log of A minus over HA is going to be 0. And so the pH of this solution should, in theory at least, be equal to our pKa. Now, interestingly enough, despite that little mess up there with the endpoint, our numbers actually don't look that different between the first trial for this one and the second trial. So in the first trial I got 4.26, and now we're getting 4.30. Okay, so although that one number there for the pH at the equivalence point is probably a little bit off, it doesn't seem to have affected our end result by much, so that's good. All right, guys, look forward to seeing you and talking with you on Wednesday.